Welcome to episode 162 of When the Kids Go to Sleep.
It's going to be one for the books.
Oh, you're going to start it off like that?
Yeah.
You're going to start it off like that, huh?
Well, it is.
Did we roll the intro yet? Should I be wild and crazy?
Roll the intro.
When the kids are counting sheep, when the kids go to sleep, dreams and memories, when the kids go to sleep.
Okay, welcome to When the Kids Go to Sleep. Yeah, this is going to be one for the books. We got a lot to talk about.
We do.
I'm excited and nervous.
It's all good things.
Ha! Okay, so welcome to today's podcast. Today's podcast is one that I've wanted to do for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it sparked oh man, where do we begin? Oh boy, we're going to get there. Trust me, we'll get there. Okay, so today we're going to talk about weaknesses, about vulnerability.
Yeah, definitely.
Recently, I was on the Tim Ferriss podcast. You guys know, you saw it in the vlog. I tweeted about it. Very excited. Mm-hmm. Very nervous for that podcast to come out. It's coming out in a few days.
Yeah.
Time. Mostly I'm nervous because it's like, I feel like a lot of smart people, a lot of people I look up to
We'll be listening
to that podcast. Just like the caliber of people that he's had on that podcast, it's hard to feel worthy to be, I don't know. He just has had some really cool people.
You are.
Well, I'm not trying to anyways.
I know, but I know what you mean. I know that feeling.
Wait, can I say one thing at the very beginning about my shirt real quick?
It's awesome.
Before we get
and
into
I think
the
you
deep
look really
stuff?
great in it.
This shirt is one of the coolest shirts I've ever had the privilege to own. Drew Baldwin, who's a good buddy of ours, created the Streamy Awards. Maybe you guys have heard of him. He was wearing the shirt. Where were we at? I saw him somewhere.
It was at the Tribeca thing.
Listen, this is a way to be a cool person. You want to be an epic person? Do you want to be like the world's coolest man? Do you want to be like somebody that nobody will ever forget? Be like Drew Baldwin. Because he was wearing this shirt in New York City. I saw him at a thing before the Tribeca Film Festival. I'm like, dude, I love that shirt. If you can't see it, it has like the Big Dipper, has like a rover, like the Mars rover, an astronaut. I'm like,
space shuttle.
Space shuttle. All spacey. Really cool white pocket with a button. I'm just like, dude, that's a sweet shirt. Where'd you get that? And he's like, oh, I got it at the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, which is like a big telescope science. What is it? Crap, I should have looked that up.
It's like a big museum.
It's a big science thing on a hill that you can like see into the space stars. See, I can't be on the Tim Ferriss podcast.
You already were, babe.
He
already invited you.
He's gonna delete it. Anyways, so I'm like, dude, that's a sweet shirt. And like the Griffith Observatory is a really cool spot. Wasn't Joe and Sarah's wedding there?
It was near it.
Right by there. Anyways, so I was like, that's a cool shirt. Anyways, bye, cool, see ya, bye. And like a couple days later, Drew texts me. He's like, hey, what's your address? I'm like, why? What? He's like, what's your shirt size? And I didn't even think about it. I'm like, oh, maybe he's sending me some promotional material or something. Mm-hmm. The shirt in the mail. Like, here you go. That's a cool thing. And it's not easy to go to the Griffith Observatory. So I don't know how he got it or if he if he drove there, sent an assistant or something, but he sent me the shirt. Like, that's an epic thing.
It was really cool.
So Drew, you rock.
Yeah, and you look really good in it.
Thanks, babe. Okay, so I'm an alcoholic. I got tired of the run-up. Let's just get to it.
You're not, though.
Well, okay. So let's talk
talk
about this. I used to drink alcohol, and I didn't think we were going to get into it like that. Recently I was on the Tim Ferriss podcast, and we were, his job, he says at the beginning of all of his podcasts, is to deconstruct. Now I even feel embarrassed saying what his thing is, knowing that I was on the podcast. World-class performers is what he says. So, people that have had success in certain areas, he likes to figure out what they do and so that you can kind of mimic and follow the patterns and habits. Yeah. And there's real things that you can do to formulate success. And if you just do these things and do the things that successful people do and think and, kind of have a worldview like these people have, you in turn will also become successful. So it's a great podcast to aggregate some really cool individuals to, to just go to one spot and be like, wow, all this information, all this life experience, all this knowledge, all wrapped up into this one little thing that I can listen to while I mow the lawn.
Right.
The Tim Ferriss podcast. So he's had like, Chip Kelly. The last podcast he had was the founder of Wired magazine, who a lot of people call like a technology prophet. Like, anyway, so on the podcast, when I was on his podcast, we were talking about vulnerability, about our weaknesses. And a good buddy of mine, Morgan Spurlock, who we're making the movie with, the vlogumentary, which we're going to have a big announcement at VidCon in which is like
couple
days. The movie's coming out very soon. But he was also on the Tim Ferriss podcast, and he talked about owning your story or like owning your weaknesses. I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, and this all has, got me thinking like, when am I going to tell this kind of big secret that I've had, that I've kind of kept from our viewers for the entire time, and I've never, and this will probably come as a shock to a lot of you, but yeah, when we, first got married, when was it? When did I begin the drinking? It feels weird to talk about it right now, so I'm like...
Are you nervous?
Yeah, I'm nervous about it.
Don't be afraid.
So I talked about it on the Tim Ferriss podcast because, it's like you want to talk about your weaknesses. You want to be able to own your story. And I feel like I can help a lot of people because of the struggle that I had with alcohol. And it's something that I've wanted to talk about, but I've felt afraid to talk about. One, because I don't want to embarrass my mom, or my family. But it's like, that's the problem. And this is why, and this is not, I'm not going to like paint a broad stroke, but recently with this shooting in Orlando, we as a society have a hard time talking about our weaknesses.
Yeah.
If you think about the shooter, and I don't want to get into a big fight here about, all this, our hearts go out to the victims of the shooting, obviously, but we need to talk about our weaknesses. We need to be able to share what we're struggling with. If this shooter was gay, that's okay, but he didn't feel like he could talk to anybody about it. He and I don't know. I have no idea who this person is. I don't know his motives.
That's just some of the speculations have been on the news, is like he did frequent that nightclub before, and so people wondered if he was in the closet, and maybe he felt so much shame for it that he felt like doing this act, for some reason would be redeeming for him in a way. And it's like trying to get in his mind is a place I don't really want to go, but understanding that we all have weaknesses and people get stuck, and he dealt with it in a horrible way, obviously.
Right. And the point of
whatever he was dealing with, it was obviously horrible that caused him to do something horrible.
We need to be able to talk about what we're struggling with. And for me, I struggled with alcohol for a long time and didn't talk about it. I hid it. I hid it from Colette, from my wife, the person I love the most, for about a year. And finally couldn't keep it from her anymore. And it wasn't like, and that's the thing, that's the scary thing about alcohol. It's not like I was drinking every night, hiding it from her. I would drink once in a while. And of course, you guys know, in our religion, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who we are still active members of, we have a code of health, a law of, it's called the Word of Wisdom. And it was revealed in the 1800s by a man named Joseph Smith. And it's basically a way to best treat this body, a best practices, if you will, to feel the healthiest, and you can read it. It's in the scriptures that we use as members of the church called the Doctrine and Covenants. It's in a section 80, 88, what is it?
I don't remember. I think it's 88.
But it states that you shouldn't drink alcohol, that you shouldn't use tobacco, it even goes as far as saying that you should eat meat sparingly. Which today we know is right, is healthy. It says to eat fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And this is a code of health or a law of health that was revealed in the 1800s when a majority of the Americans that lived they were alcoholics. They drank. That's how you kind of dealt with the times back then.
Which it hasn't
changed
too much.
It hasn't changed.
I mean, we all are... dealing with stuff, a lot of substances out there.
So what's the point? What's the point in me sharing this? One, I feel like because I was able to overcome it, hand to the square word, I have not had a sip of alcohol in almost 5 years. Mm-hmm. This October will be 5 years. So I basically drank for a 6-year period from like 2005 to when I stopped almost 5 years ago, which would be 2009, 2010.
Right. Mm-hmm.
2010, October of 2010. So it's like and I know people will do this, if you go back through the vlogs, when I went hunting, I went on an elk hunt with my dad and my brother and my son, and I did not vlog for a week. And I think Brett, the intern, or actually what happened, he was uploading the videos. Yeah. But you guys actually were helping. You guys were making Shaytard montages for a week while I went to sober up in the mountains and the elk hunt. And so there was a week of videos because I just had to get away. I had to get away from the daily vlogs. I had to, because it was even to the point where we were calling, therapy places. We were calling rehab places. Mm-hmm. I was like, I want to quit. I cannot quit. Like, we're just going to have to spend the money. And like, but she's like, what are we going to do with the vlogs? And I'm like, I have to like just disappear. I have to go somewhere and get help. Like, and we were calling rehab places, and it was a weird experience. I felt like they felt like I wasn't an alcoholic enough or something. And I know people want answers. Like, they're probably so curious about all the details.
Oh, I know. I mean, this is a long time of not talking about it, but I think that's okay. Like, you don't have to share everything until you're ready,
Anyways, the point is, the people that do these, and I hope people aren't be like, well, Shay's trying to make it okay that he was an alcoholic by blaming it on the shooter. I don't know.
No.
I'm just saying, like,
wow.
I can just read the comments now, right?
No, it just kind of brought up the topic in our minds.
Yeah, because a lot of people have saying, why haven't you guys said anything about the Orlando shooting? It's like, I don't know what to say. It's a horrible thing. If you ask me, like, how do we solve these shootings? One, yes, I agree that assault rifles should not be on the streets of America. To me,
it should definitely be harder to get guns.
A gun should be a privilege. I don't think a gun should be a right.
No.
A car's not a right. You can't just drive a car. So why should you be able to have a gun that can kill 50 people as a right? Like, you have the right to breathe oxygen. Mm-hmm. It's like, you should have earned that privilege. Like, your kids don't just, you know what I'm saying? Like, anyway, so I agree with that. Yes. But like, that's number one. But how do we solve at the core of people not even wanting to go get guns and shoot up a bunch of people?
Yeah.
It's by sharing our weaknesses. It's by saying, listen, it's okay. You have struggles. We all do. You're suffering with this. I'm suffering with this. That person's suffering with that. And it's like, we're all going through a shitty time, and it's hard. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be ups and downs, peaks and valleys. And if we don't talk about it, if we don't ever feel like we can get something off our chest or be real for a minute and say, like, listen, this is really what I'm struggling with. I know I'm putting on this big front and everything, but like, wow, I'm having a problem with
getting
this.
Down to the, I loved what Patty, the city commissioner in Orlando, we've been watching the news a lot this whole
That's all
weekend.
We watch. Our poor kids. We flip back and forth between CNN and Fox, just like at the commercial, just like back and forth, just watching the news. And it's like, I felt like, should our kids see this? And I'm like, it happened. They need to be aware. They need to know that this is a societal problem that they can solve.
Right.
You can solve. Mm-hmm. It's like, we can, as parents now, we can stop being mad at our kids for their problems.
Yeah.
So what if you're gay? I love you. So what if whatever? It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're in this together. We have to work together. If we're not working together, then there's hate crimes, Like, what in the world? What I was going to say is Patty, the city commissioner in Orlando, she is an openly gay official, or openly lesbian.
First elected gay official.
Yeah. And I love every time she talks, she is like, you cannot fight hate with hate. You have to fight it with love. Love conquers every time. And she said that multiple times, and she's so right. Like, love conquers every time in our homes, in our communities, in society. Love conquers. You have to love each other and accept each other and have, maybe you don't agree, but you can have tolerance and love for each other. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me.
Sometimes it's because of religion. It's because people feel like they're going to get in trouble with God or their pastor or their bishop or their imam at a mosque or whoever, whatever religion, where they're expected to be performing so that they will receive these privileges or blessings, and that they're going to get in trouble because the Bible says that you're not supposed to be gay. The Quran, like you're not supposed to be gay. So it's like, I can't, am I going to be in trouble with God? So it's like, no, you can't do that. So I know where that feeling's coming from, but guess what? Christ is the judge if you're a Christian. Allah is the judge if you're a Muslim. You are not. It doesn't matter what you think. You're just one of the brothers and sisters down here. Mom and dad will take care of it, okay? So you don't have to judge them. All you have to do is get along and love each other. You're not, you know what I'm saying? And some people will say, well, Christ has called us to call people to repentance. Well, not through shooting people or not. And I think there's some radicalized Muslims that believe that if they, there's an act of violence that will, expunge them from the sin of the gay, if that's the hypothesis, that because he was gay, that was a sin. And if he took out a bunch of gay people, then Allah would forgive him of the sin of being gay.
That's
which is
like the mind frame. Like, who knows? We don't know if he really was, but or what his motives were. But that's just a theory.
We're not speculating. We're just here to say, like, it hurts. It doesn't feel good to get shot. It doesn't feel good to see somebody cry because their family member's dead. It doesn't feel good to be judged for being an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Which I think in the alcoholism realm, it's like, I have not had a sip of alcohol for almost 5 years this October. But I think people are like, why do you always say that you're an alcoholic? Because I think that's a psychology in that world where it's like, you're always an alcoholic. Right. I think maybe it's to warn yourself to, like, you can't ever start drinking again, because if you do, you will become an alcoholic. Mm. So,
that's interesting. I don't know that, because our words have a lot of power, and I don't think you need to title yourself that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't
think you do.
I don't want to say that I'm an alcoholic. I don't know what the psychology is behind that, but it's like, I don't drink anymore.
You struggled with it for a while, and you were not
And it
anymore.
was very tempting. I'll tell you what, man, the first month was so hard. A beer commercial would come on the TV, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, change the channel. Mm-hmm. Or like, because we travel a lot. So like mini bars in hotels, I'd be like, lock the mini bar. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the first year, my favorite place to drink would be in airports. Mm-hmm. I can't believe I'm talking about this. It's tripping me out.
How do you feel though?
I know that it's a problem. Listen, I know that there are so many people who, like, I told Colette, like, I'm excited to talk about this because I just remember what it feels like to try to get drunk, like try to hide it. You feel like, or even when you just are openly going out and partying, like how many people have said, I'm never going to drink again, because you vomit everywhere. You make a stupid decision. You text somebody you shouldn't text. You punch somebody you shouldn't punch, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. If you have ever drank alcohol or you've ever had experience with alcohol, you know that there is at least one thing in your life that has really been screwed up because of a decision you made while you were drunk. Mm. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And here's the other thing too. Sugar, man, it is being so proven right now that sugar is such a killer, and alcohol has so much sugar in it. Yeah. That's why I was so fat. It does feel good to like talk about it. Yeah. People say I miss the fat Shay. I've always said what they're really saying is I miss the drunk Shay.
I'm so proud of you right now.
I know, it feels weird to say it out loud.
I feel really proud of you.
I love you.
I know that this
Please,
has been hard.
We're gonna make out for me.
I know this has been really hard for
10 minutes later.
I've been reading a lot. I've been reading so much lately, guys.
She's smart.
No,
man.
but I
She's
have
smart.
I've been reading a book about vulnerability by Brene Brown. Couple books. And
say all the books you've been reading out loud real quick.
Oh goodness. Rising Strong by Brene Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection, Starting Fresh. I think that's what Fresh Start by Joel Osteen. Like there's a lot of I would have to make a list. What is it called? They Were Not Ashamed by Laura Brotherson.
That's a good one.
It's a really good one. There's just a lot. I feel like I've been like, let's soak my brain in knowledge right now because I'm like thirsty to know more about the things that we've been struggling with. And what I wanted to say about this is there is such a big difference between guilt and shame, but it doesn't feel like there is. Like guilt is meant, like if we do something wrong, it's meant to drive us to make amends and then make it right. That's guilt, and it can be a good feeling to help you do something right. But shame, on the other hand, is meant to, it's a very negative thing that's meant to like hold you down. And we are constantly, that is the number one thing that we are feeling, I feel like, as human beings, is fear and shame. And the fear and the shame, they are just in a vicious cycle. And for whatever reason, like you felt like you couldn't talk about this because you felt shame for. And I feel so proud that you are able to now own your story. Like we all have stories like this where we are ashamed of ourselves for some reason, like body shame, you know, something we've done. There's so many different reasons why we can get stuck in these mind traps where we feel like we're not enough.
And I feel like sometimes people classify different problems or sins like, well, you don't know my problem. My problem is like, it's all the same, man.
Or well, I can do this because it's not as bad as what they're doing, you know?
Right.
Like,
well, at least I'm not.
Judgment and blame and, you know, and it's just like, you know what, just own your story and say it like it is and have trust that it's enough. Like whatever you're dealing with, wherever you're struggling, it's okay.
Think about it like this. It's meant to be. You are not broken. You are not broken. You are just fine. Okay? We are meant to struggle. That is why we are here. I believe we are here to overcome hard things. And we can do hard things. And it doesn't matter what your hard thing is. You can overcome it. And it might be hard and it might take a long time, but we need to talk about it and we need to be okay with each other having problems. But we need to be sincere. We need to really genuinely want to do what is right. We need to be altruistic. We need to not have a Machiavellian approach to whatever is best to get me to a higher position is good. We need to think what is good for the whole community as a family of brothers and sisters. What is truly the right thing? And we need to figure that out together, nicely, with soft, quiet words.
Yeah.
And not machine guns.
That is so true. I love what we learned at the Tony Robbins event about fear, how fear is like the number one thing that holds us back. Fear leads to shame, shame leads to fear, and it's just this vicious cycle. With whatever, like there's so many things that you could be dealing with that fear is the number one cause. Like your fear of not being enough, fear of not being loved, it causes you to do things or say things to get what you feel like you need, but not being able to just be honest and own your story and be okay with yourself. Like you just have to love yourself no matter what you're struggling with and realize that you can overcome anything. One of the things that I loved in this book, it's kind of silly. At first I was like, wait, what is she talking about? Because she used a Harry Potter reference. When Harry Potter, you know, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you know what I'm talking about. But like he kind of the whole movie or the whole series, he is kind of worried that he could possibly be a bad person. He's worried that he's going to be in Slytherin and not Gryffindor. And he's just scared that he's a bad person. And Sirius Black and him are having a conversation and Sirius kind of opens the light, sheds light on this. And he says, it's only when you can go into the dark that you realize the power of your own light. I don't know if that's the exact quote, but it's something towards you have to be able to look at the dark and go into it and realize that you have a choice. You have the power to choose and decide. You are not a bad person. Bad things happen to you. You make bad decisions, but you are not a bad person and you can change no matter what.
Mm-hmm. And it might be hard, but you have to take a big step. You have to do something drastic sometimes. You cannot keep doing the same things and expect different results. And going back to God, if you believe in God, you know, however, just some eternal loving thing that is rooting for us down here. There's so much more love than I think we ever can imagine. Because I tell you what, I'm a dad of 5 kids, and I can't even explain how much I love my kids. And I'm a dumb 36-year-old idiot who has, small empathy and compassion. And if you think of an eternal father, it's okay. You're not in trouble because he loves us. She loves us. Our mother in heaven loves us. Allah loves us. It's, and we need to quit beating ourselves up because it hurts. It doesn't feel good. It sucks. Like, why do that?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Let's be okay with each other. That feels better. Can you feel it? Like, it's okay that you suck, that you screwed up, that you did that bad thing. That's fine. Like, how does that feel, right? Like, that's good. I like that. And it's not to say like, well, do whatever you want. Be like, cool, like it's cool. You gotta
own your story.
In the debate between grace and your own works, like, don't put it all on Christ's back. Don't excuse yourself from your actions. Everything that you do, say, and think has a reaction. Something happens because of the things you choose to do. And that's the greatest thing about being here, is that we can choose. You have to realize that. One of the most eye-opening moments I ever had in my entire life was in 4th grade. We were reading a book about the Holocaust, and it was about these sisters. I suck at books. See, I told you I'm not smart. I should not be on the Tim Ferriss podcast. Stop. It's a book about the Holocaust. You know what I'm talking about? Hitler, real jerk.
It was in 4th grade. How are you supposed to remember?
See, I even think we need to get to the point where it's like, Hitler, man, you are so misunderstood. Like
what is
wrong? He was going
wrong?
through some pain, man. He was messed up. He suffered, and he put his suffering out in the world. We need to get to the place where we can forgive Saddam Hussein, Adolf Hitler, where it's like, dude, okay, whoa, it's okay, but it's not
okay, but
yeah.
But like, clearly,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
something happened in their their lives.
What happened to that poor guy, man? Like, we need to get to that level where it's like, see the pain in people. Don't see them as like they're trying to hurt people. Like, they're hurting inside. That's why they're doing that. Like, you have to understand that. That's why the bully is picking on people, because his dad is at home picking on him. Right? Like, we're hurting.
The reason his dad picked on him is because somebody picked on him, or
okay, I gotta quit bouncing over. I gotta get to my book. Anyways, 4th grade. Miss Armstrong would read the book, and they talked about these 2 sisters that were in a concentration camp where they were just packed in these bunks, and within the bunks there was like straw and stuff. And so in that straw was fleas or lice. Just like I'm starting to itch even thinking about it. But they wanted to read their scriptures. They were Jewish and they wanted to read their scriptures, and they weren't allowed to do that. And they were in such a bad situation where the fleas were like so infesting them that the guards would not come in to where they were. So because they were neglected, because the guards didn't want to get fleas on them, they were able to pray and read scriptures. And I was, as a 4th grader, just thought like, they're in the worst situation possible. They almost know they're going to die. They're living with these bugs, but they can still choose to be grateful,
right? To
be able to worship God and read scriptures. And I'm like, that is like they're in the pit of hell, like in the worst, history knows the Holocaust is the worst time. Like, how could you ever be happy in a time like that? And they found a reason to choose to be happy. They found a way to be grateful, to transcend their current situation and find peace. And I feel like we can do that. I feel like you need to realize that you can do that. And your situation is way better. There are no fleas or lice. Maybe there are, but you could go to Target and get some stuff and spray them. I'm just saying, so think about that. Like, start to get in your brain and be like, man, what are other people suffering through that I have no idea about? How could I be grateful for what I have right now? States. Tony Robbins went to this event, talked about a state or your mood. What kind of mood you in? Bad mood, good mood, happy mood? What is your state? I'm in this current physical state or mood. If you think about the state of every shooter, every mass shooter, they're angry. They're in a bad state. They're mad about something. Sorry. They have to wake up to an early alarm.
Sorry.
Whatever it is. So we got to change our state. We got to find a way to get into a better state.
To get into a better state, for sure. I mean, I feel like we have been bouncing around a lot, but there's so much. We have so much that we've been gleaning, I feel like, over the past while about. I mean, the scriptures say men are that they might have joy. And I feel like the only way we're able to do that is being grateful and loving ourselves. Like, you have to love, and it starts with yourself. Like, don't be ashamed of things that you've done. Make things right and own your story and love yourself. Because change. You have the power to choose. You can decide. You don't have to spread hate with hate.
Well, okay. I know you guys probably have a lot of questions. I don't even know where we should go from here.
I know. I mean, I feel like we'll definitely have to do a follow-up.
Now we're going to do Which Kid Said It. Let's bring them in.
I love you so much. I am very proud of you, honey. I know this is like, whatever. You could say, maybe we didn't say everything the way that we should have or whatever, but like, he is owning his story today. And that, to me, is like a huge thing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And I know that it will help a lot of people. Like, that's all we can do. That's all we have is our stories. This is who I am. This is who we are.
So what are your problems? Talk about some of your problems. Chocolate.
We
haven't told you guys, but since we got rich, we got a chocolate waterfall. Just kidding.
A chocolate river? We have a whole Willy Wonka room. It's my problem. No,
So I want to start talking about alcoholism because I know a lot of people suffer. I know a lot of people suffer with it right now. And how do you define alcoholism? This is something that I talk about in the Tim Ferriss podcast. It's like, well, am I an alcoholic if I drink 4 days a week? What if I only drink 3 days a week? Or what if I drink 6 days a week? Like, I'm not an alcoholic. I could drink once every day. It's like, where, like, how do you define what that is? Towards the end, I would drink 6 days a week. I would, it'd be about 2, 4 in the afternoon, and I would need alcohol, and you go through phases, and I could drink a lot of alcohol. I had a high tolerance. I was I don't know if I was an alcoholic per se because, I don't know what all the terms are to define it, but I drank every day. I drank 6 days a week, and I was a functioning alcoholic. I could, nobody knew.
Right.
So I want to reach out to people who are suffering, whether it be alcohol, cigarettes. I mean, we all have something.
Anything.
And you just need to ask yourself, like, you're not in trouble for it. That's not the thing. It's not like we're calling you to like repentance or anything. It's just like, you'll feel better. All I'm saying as a past alcoholic, as somebody that's like, who suffered through that, it's hard. Sometimes it's like a job. It's like, and your tolerance gets really high. So then it's harder to get drunk. And so then it's like, you have to drink more and then you have to start drinking hard alcohol. And, then you can't loosen up. That's what I hate about going to like parties at, like VidCon or Playlist Live. It's like, now that I don't drink and we go to these parties, I'm like, let's start dancing. I'm like, oh, people aren't drunk enough yet. It's like, nobody's dancing. People need to drink more. So it's like, let's just come back.
So we can all be happy with who we are and just dance.
Be able to like let your hair down and talk about your feelings without needing the alcohol, And that's actually one thing I loved about alcohol. And I went because in our culture and specifically in my family, you just don't talk about stuff. Like if me and my family got in a fight, it was like the next day we just wouldn't talk about it. And it's like, we're cool. Like it's hard. It's awkward to talk about hard things. And so,
which is sometimes like okay to like not dwell on a problem, but you should be able to talk in a way that's helpful. And
I just remember when I drank alcohol, I remember it seemed like people were way willing to talk about stuff.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I like this. I like people being open and just saying really what's on their mind because you're drunk. You're just saying stuff, right? It's like, that's who you really are almost, So I'm like, I want to get to know people like this more often, you know, and I'm not like saying like that's why I was an alcoholic, but that's one I love the social aspect of it, you know. And it's crazy. Like, who knows why the things that happen in our life happen? Like, hindsight is such an interesting, like, time travel. Like, I feel like some of the success of my YouTube channel is due to alcohol. Like, what a crazy thing to do.
Do the
like
YouTube?
You know?
Yeah, it is pretty crazy.
Only a drunk would think of that.
Hey, I've never been drunk, and I was cool with it.
She's never had a sip of alcohol, ever, ever, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Goody two shoes.
Shut up. I think that's the goal we want to get to, though, is like being able to be open and vulnerable and be ourselves without having to have something to make that happen.
Yeah. And that, in turn, will make people feel like they're not so lost, like they're not so alienated, like they don't have to lash out to get somebody's attention. What I wanted to say during all this Orlando shooting is like, what can we do? Here's what I think we can do. We can look at each other in the streets. We can almost, as a society, make a new policy. It's like, let's get off our phones when we're out in public. Like, you're at an airport and it's like everybody in line is like, don't talk to me. It's like, listen, I'm almost thinking it as an evolution process, because in public society, it's like we're all down here on our phones. But if you think about it, we're all interacting through here, right? And it's way more interaction that our species has ever had, right? Like, more people are talking to more people than ever before.
Yet less people are talking than ever before.
But it's like, it's gonna shift where it's like, we're going to realize it almost took the screen to make us feel safe to communicate in such a vulnerable way. Because a lot of, YouTubers, when you're in front of a person, it's hard to be this vulnerable. We've gotten used to being vulnerable in front of this camera because it's like, well, nobody's here. Eventually somebody will see it, but it's way more easy to like be open when it's just this. But I think that we are going to evolve as a species where, this will probably actually go inside of our brains, and when we won't be like looking at it, we'll be looking at each other more, but we'll have this loaded in and it's going to be like interacting as we look at each other more. So it's like more of an evolution of us coming to, I'm not drunk right now, I swear. And that's the other thing too, is that my personality is that of a drunk person. So it was very easy to be an alcoholic and be me at the same time, because I'm like, that's just how I am anyways.
It's true. What was I going to say to that? You were saying
we're gonna evolve. Instead of communicating through here, we're gonna start like. Are you sick of it? Do you feel like this is I feel addicted to this. I feel like I am constantly like, I gotta refresh something. I gotta see, did somebody say something? It's like, what's the email?
Text? What's Twitter?
And it's almost like a burden. Like it would feel good to just like, so. That's what we can do to help in society, is look at each other, say hi, open a door, like just the simple things. The secrets to life are hidden behind the word cliche. Hello, how are you doing today? Good morning. Yeah. Can you believe this weather? Stupid small talk. That will help. Small talk, how annoying. Don't do small talk then. Say some real things. Say, hey, I just checked out Shay Carl's new podcast. Turns out he's an alcoholic. Check it out. Whatever you got to say, like, we need to start talking to each other. Here's another thing I would say. Find a person who is the most opposite of you that you can imagine. I'm a left-handed, white, bearded Christian man. I need to go get to know a right-handed Muslim black woman. You know what I mean? Like, how you need to find somebody that you're so different from and make friends with them. Right. And then the world will start to heal. Then we won't have 50 people dead in a nightclub. And all
I
that.
loved what Patty, the city commissioner, said on one of her interviews. She said, guns aren't the problem. The problem is, what made this guy think that he needed to do that? Like, we need to help people and embrace people.
Because we can fight about guns all day, but unless we
guns aren't the problem. It's the people.
Yeah. Why are the people doing this? And that is through good old fashioned niceness, eye contact. And listen, I'm not being short-sighted. Like, there's a real problem,
right?
But
I mean, it definitely goes deeper than just being nice on the street. You're being
short-sighted to think that the root, you gotta solve the root of the problem, which is healing these people's angry hearts. You gotta soften hearts,
and it starts with your own.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is you can only change you. You can choose what you do, what you think about, how you interact with people, you choose. It starts with you. You can't change people. You can start with yourself. And
Amen.
that's ultimately the bottom line. Own your stories and love yourself for it. It's okay. That's why you're here. You need to be here to experience the things that you're specifically experiencing so that you can reach out and help others. That's what I believe.
Preach.
I missed
it. That was my fault. Okay. Well, I think we will definitely do a follow-up podcast to this.
I'm sure there will be a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I just kind of wanted to just turn the camera on and get this off our chest. And
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. So we'll do a follow-up. But thanks for watching. And
we love you guys.
look somebody in the eye. Open a door for somebody. Just one thing polite in society.
And we would
high fives.
We wouldn't share all this stuff with you if we didn't care about you.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling unloved, know that somebody loves you and go give yourself a hug. Yeah.
I'm gonna make out with myself now because I love myself.
Your shirt's really awesome. I would make out with you too.
All right, we're gonna go do that right now. Thanks for joining us. See you guys next time.
We'll stay up, just you and I, and we'll talk about our pretty life when the kids go to sleep.